A member of the Knox County School Board is urging her colleagues to return the historic book Roots to school library shelves. Catherine Bike sent a letter to her fellow board members making that request earlier this month. District leaders, they decided, though, to remove the novel over concerns involving passages they determined violated a state law regarding age-appropriate materials in schools. It prompted a vocal outcry. I sat down with Ms. Bike earlier today to discuss her request and her greater concerns about the vagueness of the state law and the ban of other books. Here's that discussion. Catherine Bike, thank you so much for being with us to talk about what is the next step that you have taken in this story involving the book Roots. You have, and I have it in my hands right now, you have presented a letter to your colleagues requesting that the book be put back on Knox County shelves.
Yes. Yep.
What propelled you to take this step in this story?
Yeah. Well, obviously the book being removed.
Yeah.
But then, Reverend Butler asked for some of our policies to be brought in that have to do with our school libraries and textbooks to our policy review that was kind of just days after we were informed about this removal. And we got to have a really great conversation during that. Well, it's hard to call it great, but, an in-depth conversation about the removal of this and realistically the law that was and the amendments that were passed 2 years ago and how, why now, what happened, and basically how did we get here. And I'm a strategies person, so I'm always looking for that angle. I'm looking for, taking in that information. How do people feel? How are we going to navigate this? And realistically, I'm also looking for people that made these decisions to take ownership over them. And our school district really was trying to abide by the law. And I know that several school districts have done different things, but that's kind of the issue with the law is it doesn't give clear guidance and attorneys can interpret it in different ways.
Right.
What I said in another interview is that we all know science-wise and mathematics that 2 + 2 = 4, but a lot of attorneys can make 2 + 2 = 5 and 6 or 7 or whatever they want it to equal.
Right.
So really that's where this came from. And also sunshine laws exist. So I can't just call up my board members and say, hey, what do you think about this? What are we going to do? So it is in an avenue like this to draft a memo. I didn't want to do a specific resolution because in our policy review, I think board member Templeton had mentioned kind of doing something like that. But that ask would be a little bit not immediate, I think. But of course, I haven't seen that either. I won't see it until it posts on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. And this is just a little bit more immediate, kind of in the interim of, I'm sure that this law will be amended. So, yeah.
Well, and Daniel helped me out here, but your colleague Betsy Henderson posting on social media today that she too is in support of bringing Roots back to the point she plans to submit a resolution as well.
Yeah.
So it sounds as if there is.
Yeah, I definitely think this is bipartisan.
Yes.
For sure.
Let's go back in time. How did you find out about Roots being pulled from the library shelves?
A text message from someone in the media asking me to make a statement on it. And so that I felt pretty dumb, being like, what do you mean?
You got no heads up, no indication.
No heads up. No. And so instantly started calling the superintendent, different people in the district, asking like what has happened, what is going on. And then a day later, we had a memo that went out to the board saying this is what's happened. So it moved very quickly. And then basically the day after we had the memo was when we had policy review. So this has been moving very fast.
And tell me about the response you got once it started going far and wide from constituents, parents, students. What kind of reaction did you get?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's been really surprising. It is bipartisan. It is across the board. There are students that are upset. There are parents that are upset. And it's not just the Black community. It is across the board. lot of people consider this a part of our history, a part of all of our history, and very important to keep in places because it was in high schools. It wasn't like this book was in elementary schools. But that's another issue with the law is that it doesn't allow for kind of grade bands. You know, it's not like, okay, K through 5, here's your option, middle school and high school. No, if it's not good for a kindergartner, it's not good for an 8th grader and a 12th grader.
So what is your hope based on what is playing out in this case? It going back and being amended, what would you like to see specifically changed in order to provide more clarity for the people who are tasked with doing this to be able to do it in such a way?
Yeah. Honestly, 2 years ago, before these amendments passed, we had a really great system in place. If you were a parent, you could call into the school and you could say, hey, here's this book. I don't like it. Don't want my kids to check it out. And it would be put on that the child couldn't check it out. If the child brought it up to the librarian, they scan it, it pings in the system, child's not allowed to check this out. And then the librarian very carefully says like, I'm so glad you chose this, but let's choose something that you might like a little better. You know, librarians have such a way with kids and they are so good at choosing those things and not making it awkward, not being like, well, your parents don't want you to check this out. You know, they're not going to do that. They have a lot of training. They're very professional and they really want what's best for students.
Was that in Knox County or was it statewide?
That was in Knox County.
Okay.
We had a lot of space to kind of create our own system. And so other school systems might have had similar, but I'm not sure.
So the change, of course, coming with
and of course
this
we
law.
had they're both still open.
Okay,
Like,
yeah. So where does it go? So you have presented this. When or if could Roots end up on library shelves again? What is the process in this now?
So the process in this is that this will go out to the board. So the rest of the board doesn't have this, although many media have put it out. So I'm sure some of them have seen it. But as far as it coming from me, they will get it when it posts on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. We'll discuss it next Monday. It'll be on our agenda. And I have it on there for discussion and possible action, which means that I hope to bring it to a vote on Thursday. So June 1st is our discussion, and then Thursday, June 4th is our voting meeting, and have us vote on really bringing this back and what my ask is in here to have it put back on our library shelves. And as soon as we vote on that, it goes back.
Okay. Yeah, the board has the power to do just that.
Yes.
I'm looking at your letter, and one thing that the point you make is that removing Roots is not a neutral act. It sends a message to our students. Explain that.
Yeah. Like with a lot of different topics that have come up, our students really sometimes don't feel heard, especially by elected officials and leadership. And this is all over the news. I know that students are reading this, and some students know that this is a part of our history. And even though we are not saying it in those words, removing it from our library says that, you know, this is something that we don't want to deal with. We don't want to hear, we don't want to listen to, we don't want to acknowledge, which means, you know, something that they might identify with doesn't get to be acknowledged, and that doesn't feel good. So I think that when we do acknowledge it and we say that this is difficult, it's uncomfortable, it's not great. It's not a great part of our history, but it's there and we have to talk about it, and that they might feel more seen, they might feel more accepted, and realistically more empowered to just be in their own skin.
You talk about history, and I guess what has surprised so many is that Alex Haley, the author of Roots, had planted roots, if you will.
Yes, he did.
Here in Knoxville, in East Tennessee, and you mentioned this as well.
I think that's what makes it even more impactful. There's literally a gigantic statue of him 2 miles from where we meet. I mean, he is a huge figure in our history. He lived here. He chose to live here. This is a place that he loved and spent the rest of his life. Yeah, so that's what makes it kind of even worse that we've removed it.
Well, you would like to see some changes to the state law. Do you support, though, that materials be assessed for the different things that they have flagged for sadomasochistic behaviors and whatnot that the state lawmakers have put forth?
I think the law, if it's going to stay, it needs to be rewritten. Just like in policy, you don't get too specific, because what happens is that unintended things happen. And so realistically, the law needs to be dialed back. I know that Sam McKenzie had filed a law, I think last year, or a bill, excuse me. It didn't become law. The Freedom to Read Act, which was really great. Because realistically, if students are reading, that's a good thing.
It's an excellent thing.
It's a good thing.
Especially this time of the year with summer.
Yeah.
Being
And
at
some
play.
of these things, like understanding, this has honestly made me kind of like deep dive the science of reading. And even though I have children that, have learned to read and have struggled to read and all of those things, just really understanding, because I'm a slow reader. And so I just thought, well, I must be a bad reader. But that's not necessarily true. Sometimes you can be a typical reader or a fast reader or a slow reader and still not get the depth of meaning in the text. And sometimes you have to read things that you relate to in order to make that first little bridge. Because if you don't relate to it, how are you going to pull that meaning out? Probably if certain men were to read stuff about, coming of age for girls, and there's a deeper context to that, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand. But I would, or my daughter might. And so it's really important to have a variety, an absolute variety that children can choose from. And like one of my fellow board members has said, students aren't exactly going to the libraries to get some inappropriate material.
This provides a lot of it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right
on
here.
that cell phone,
Yeah.
right on that computer. And realistically, parents have a lot of choice. My kids, when they're coming home from school, I may not get to do it every day, but I at least get to talk to them, a few times a week, having those in-depth conversations where I'm talking about, what are you checking out? What are you reading? What's going on? And that gives me an avenue to really connect with my kids. Right. Honestly, we're going to the public library tonight. We're going to explore that. And it's kind of a part of, now that they're in middle school, our library is 2 blocks from our house. So that's really, special and lovely. But it's a part of their chores to go to the library and learn how to use it on by themselves and check out some books. As much as we go to bookstores and purchase books, they need to be able to understand how to choose these things and how to thumb through materials and find something that they identify with.
Absolutely. Of course, Root's not the only book. There have been dozens that have been pulled from shelves. Are there any other books that you feel need to be brought up for discussion to possibly bring them back?
Yeah.
Or, where do you stand on that?
I think they all need to be discussed, for sure. I think the system that we had more than 2 years ago, we didn't remove very many books under that, but Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye is a really important one.
One I hear a lot is Slaughterhouse-Five.
Yes, Slaughterhouse-Five, absolutely. And I know it's an uncomfortable topic for sure to talk about, perks of being a wallflower. But I think for our students that do feel a little bit different and do have things that happen to them that they don't understand what's going on, it's important for them to know, to be able to name that what happened to them was wrong. And sometimes that's what books give them. Absolutely. This is something I said 2 years ago in our meetings. So, I have a daughter that's about to be 14.
Oh, boy.
I don't,
Good luck with that.
Yeah. This stuff is really uncomfortable. Yeah. And I talk to her about these things, but this happens to kids. And I would rather us be focused on actually protecting kids from having these things happen to them than trying to protect them from reading about them.
Catherine, Thank you so much for coming and sharing your steps in this this ongoing story of roots in Knox County Schools. We appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.